考定之道及英语之事，大学习之意及文化之国。接受 Q&A， 加上家长会。
Hello everyone, this is Just Row Q&A. You're watching the first We Media program about English and English study. I'm Susan. In our last episode, Dr. Jonathan Dodson started a series of talks about pronunciation. And today I would like to carry this on and answer two most frequently asked questions. The first one, how can I improve my pronunciation? And second, which accent should I pick? Well, actually the second question is included in the first one. Because when we think of pronunciation, we're actually looking at four major elements. First one, speech sounds. Second, intonation. Third, accents. And then liaison. But the correct way of pronouncing a word has a lot to do with which accents you've picked. So today, I would only focus on accent. Now, before we look at any details, we must understand what good pronunciation is. Some people believe the more you sound like a foreigner, the better a pronunciation is. But some interpreters may argue that you do not have to sound like people from a specific country because you don't know who you're going to encounter in your life, and there are people from all over the world. So they believe that the most important thing is to speak correctly and clearly. I agree with both. I think clearness plays an important role in getting yourself understood, but consistency plays another important role in defining good pronunciation. You may want to stick to one pronunciation and perfect it before you're able to mimic more. Okay, what are the common accents that we're looking at? Among native speakers, there are several identifiable accents. For example, British accent, American accent, Canadian accent, Australian accent, and New Zealand accent. Believe me, they sound more different than you think. There is much room for misunderstanding because the way one word is pronounced in one accent may sound like a different word in another accent. And the non-English speakers tend to carry over their intonation and phonemic inventory from their mother tongue into English. So we have more accents from the non-English speakers. For example, we have Japanese accent, Arabic accent, Italian accent, and Indian accent, and Chinese accent. And I'll come to that because, people from different parts of China speak English differently too. Okay, it may sound a little bit abstract without listening to that in person. So today I've prepared 3 pieces of video clips to show you how different they can be. And we made them especially for you.
I drink more wine than I used to, and my English is getting worse than I used to. I spent my whole life to learn English well. When I entered the restaurant, when I asked the feast on the table to let me to find the toilet. Women can speak bad English, not the men. So I ran the telephone to call Just Row English in Beijing, to find phonics classes, to have children, to improve their English pronunciation.
ジャパニーズパーソンand アメリカのパーソン we are good friends. We share everything together. Japanese things are American things. American things are Japanese things. We are share everything together.
Okay, I don't know it. In this hotel is haunted.
What?
The haunted, this hotel is haunted.
You mean it's haunted?
The hotel is
Come
haunted.
on, what did you tell me before I checked in?
You got faster. I thought nothing. Okay, you just take the information. I'll go in. I don't know.
The 3 clips above have shown you 3 accents: Japanese accent, Indian accent, and Italian accent. Such videos are everywhere on the internet, but of course, as you can see, sometimes bad pronunciation can make you look like a joke. Of course, when many people are picking an accent, they like to go one of the native English speakers' accent. For example, British accent and American accent are the 2 most common ones. But you know what? The thing is, There's no such thing as British accent or American accent because there are many subtypes and variations across the United Kingdom and the United States. But they do have standard accents like the Mandarin Chinese 普通话 that we have. And Britain has a standard accent called received pronunciation, and America has a set of speech called General American. And these accents are most often seen on media. For example, BBC news presenters broadcast news in received pronunciation, and General American is widely spoken in American films, TV series, commercial ads, national news, and American radios like, for example, The Voice of America. Well, how different are they? The number one difference between these two accents is rhoticity. The phoneme R in American English is pronounced before consonants and at the end of the syllables. For example, the word hard is read as hard in received pronunciation, but hard in General American. And on the screen, you can see a list of words I prepared for you, and I'm going to read each word twice, first in received pronunciation and second in General American. Far, far, car, dog, dark, march, hard, muck, start, park, yard. This R coloring has also led to some phonemic merges. For example, in some North American accents, Mary and Mary and Mary are read the same. The merger of low back vowels like the A in caught and caught and A in father and brother is absent in received pronunciation. The flat A is the third important feature of General American. Ask, answer, grass, bath, staff, dance are pronounced with a short A of trap, not with the broad A of father in received pronunciation. And the fourth rule is called flapping of t and d. In North American English, before an unstressed vowel, either t becomes voiced d or n, making the words louder and louder homophones. And 20 in received pronunciation is pronounced 20 in General American. In general, as Dotson mentioned last time, the British accent is more rounded than American accent. And if you have a chance to travel to New Zealand, you're going to hear people there have the accent similar to British accent. But they tend to pronounce E as E. For example, they would say is, penguin, and tin. Now here I have a short clip of video to show you how New Zealand accent would sound like.
But because I have exceptionally good grades, I'm allowed to have an interview with the headmaster. And after the interview with the headmaster, he considers you for a while and then sends a letter to tell you that if you are accepted into the school or not.
Non-English speakers tend to interfere English pronunciation by transferring their phonological rules from their mother tongue into their own English speech. For example, the Arabic have difficulty with the p sound, and the French people have difficulty with the h sound, and they would systematically delete it because in most French dialects they do not have the sound. Knowing all these facts may not only help you improve your pronunciation, but also help you with your listening and speaking. Well, consider why a person from the northeastern part of China finds it very hard to understand the Zhejiang dialect. Because they do not say a word that way, and it's very easy to understand why they can't understand the word in their listening. Now it's time to answer the question, which accent should I pick? Well, I have to say that it's up to you. Now that you've understood the difference between these two accents, you may really sit down and listen to the accents and choose the one that you like. Because you know what? No accent is naturally superior to other accents, even though sometimes they may suggest the speaker's social status or educational backgrounds. So I guess the safest strategy would be to pick the accent of some scholars or educated people in North America or Great Britain. So this brings us to another question that I have to answer. What do I do to improve my pronunciation? And how can I help my kid to pick a perfect pronunciation and practice that? The methods differ across different age groups. But remember, the age at which speakers immerse themselves in the language is closely linked to the degree at which native speakers are able to detect some non-native accents. So that means you have to start early. Try to help your kid pick up an accent as early as possible. This will really make a difference. Now some details. For younger kids, age 3 to 6, it's very important to make sure that they can be exposed to authentic pronunciation. Start with some beautiful picture books, cartoons, or songs. Make sure they have some input every day. And parents can join in the kids in repeating after the CDs or DVDs, word by word, sentence by sentence. And after some time, when they're familiar with the words, you can even act it out like a play or movie. You know, kids have great fun doing this. And if your children are patient enough to hear the story again and again, just like some of my students I teach here, I believe that by the end of the day or in a few days, they will be able to retell the story all by themselves. And you know what? You don't have to worry about if they have understood the cartoons or the stories, if you have chosen the appropriate level. Because, as I said before, children's brain is plastic in comparison to that of an adult. So words like pentagon, camouflage, or symmetry may sound really difficult to you, but with enough illustration, it might be a piece of cake for the kids to understand and remember them. So, as I said, in effective listening and repeating may really help your kids lay a solid foundation for their pronunciation, as well as listening and speaking. As your kids enter primary school, I recommend that you choose a textbook, while keeping encouraging your kids to read widely and listen widely. It's a good thing that your kids listen to more kinds of accents, but when it comes to speaking, you'd better encourage him to fix on one, practice one, because you don't want him to mix things up. And spare 20 to 30 minutes every day to read after the CDs or DVDs. This will not only help your kids improve their pronunciation, but also help them get familiar with the things they have learned. Well, try some harder versions of cartoons and books to read after. For example, here on the screen, I will show you a piece of clip of the class that we provide our kids to do such exercises.
Point taken. Archers! You are red animals like all white milk. No proper. You wish that you will die.
That is in your leg.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, you may also do these exercises at home. Use 1 hour every day to repeat after some Disney cartoons. After some time, I'm sure your kids' pronunciation and fluency will be much better than those who haven't got such input. When many parents come to me, they specifically ask for teachers of great pronunciation. And this totally makes sense, especially when you don't want to do any other exercises I've mentioned above. You know what? 2 to 4 hours of classes every week is enough to influence your kids' pronunciation. But if you're stuck up with some teachers with bad pronunciation, you don't have to worry too much. You can always make it up by helping your kids repeating after authentic pronunciation in CDs or DVDs. When it comes to choosing a foreign teacher, native speakers are the best. But you have to sharpen your ears. Do not just pick foreign teachers through your eyes. Because sometimes the white skin color doesn't necessarily suggest that this person is a native speaker. Some black people or Asian people who are raised in English-speaking countries may be much better than white Italian people with a strong Italian accent. What about parents' pronunciation? Well, it depends on what you think of your pronunciation. If you think it is good, why not help your kids improve their English by talking to them and helping them review? But if you think your pronunciation is not that perfect, make sure that your kids have access to authentic CDs or foreign teachers. It's especially true when you realize that you have some sounds that you have trouble with or your intonation is not that good. Well, to summarize what I've talked about today, if you want to have good pronunciation or you want your kids to speak English authentically, make sure you follow the tips on the screen. 1. Understand that good pronunciation means that you speak correctly and clearly in one of the accents in the English-speaking world. 2. American accent is more R-colored. When practicing, pay attention to the merger of vowels, the flat A, and the flapping of T and D. 3. Choose appropriate, authentic materials that interest you or your kids to listen to and read after. Persistence plus practice equals perfect. 4. The pronunciation of a teacher and parents is important, but it's not as important as tip 3. 5. Don't choose a teacher with your eyes alone. Make sure you sharpen your ears. Okay, today I've covered only one thing in improving your pronunciation. But next time, I will show you some tips on how to pronounce some specific speech sounds. And also, I will mention some most common mistakes that we Chinese people make when speaking English. Hope you can join us in our next episode of Just Wrote Q&A.
到此一重见一幕，谁知才上一层楼。